Genesis 5:23. 23 and 24. In all, Enoch's days were 365 years, and Enoch walked with God and was no more, because God took him. All Enoch's days were 365 years, means that they were few. He walked with God means the doctrine concerning faith, as before. He was no more because God took him, means that this doctrine was preserved for use by future generations. Future generations. He was no more. He was no more because God took him, means that this doctrine was preserved for use by future generations. The case with Enoch was that, as stated, he took what the earliest church perceived and reduced it to a doctrinal system, a forbidden thing at the time. Doctrinal system. He took what the earliest church perceived and reduced it to a doctrinal system. Reduced.
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 Reduced it to a doctrinal system of forbidden thing at that time. Recognizing from perception, after all, is completely different than learning from doctrine. Recognizing from perception, after all, is completely different than learning from doctrine. People who have the gift of perception have no need to learn by way of doctrinal formulas what they already know. To illustrate, when we already know how to think effectively, we do not need an artificial system to teach us how. Artificial system to teach us how. Using such a system would destroy our ability to think effectively, as it does for those who wallow in scholarly dust. Wallow in scholarly. Wallow. Wallow. It's like bathe, revel. Wallow in scholarly dust. Dust is like
Dust.
powder.
Dust.
Yeah, it's like wallow in scholarly dust. Okay. People who recognize what is good and true on the basis of perception receive that intuition from the Lord by any internal road. Those who recognize it on the basis of doctrine receive their knowledge by an external road, the physical senses. The difference is like that between light and darkness. Furthermore, the perception, furthermore, the perceptions of a family type of person can never be described because they involve the tiniest, more specific details. Tiniest, like small.
Tiniest, yeah.
Tiniest.
Tiniest.
Smallest. The tiniest, most specific details and take into account all the variety of different conditions and the circumstances. It was foreseen however, that the perceptiveness of the early church would come to an end and that people thereafter would learn from doctrine how to identify truth and goodness. In other words, they would travel through the dark to arrive at light. In consequence, it says here that God took him, which is to say that God preserved perception from the use of future generations. I was given the opportunity, in fact, to learn firsthand what perception became among the people called Enoch. I experienced it as something generalized and dim and lacking a certain distinctness, since under these circumstances the mind turns its gaze outward to focus on doctrinal issues. Distinctness.
Distinctness.
It's like clarity. Who wants to read next? Maybe Genesis 5:25.
All right. So if I type Genesis 5:25 in Google, will I get the same document? Or like, what should I type? I don't want to read from your screen. I want to Google it up and then read. What's the title?
It's the book of Manuel Swedenborg, Secrets of Heaven.
Swedenborg.
This book. I mean, if you'll find this book, maybe in PDF format, because I use EPUB format for my smartphone and Android. But if you will
Volume 1?
type
Yeah,
secret,
volume 1.
yeah, Secrets of Heaven, Swedenborg Foundation, because this book is published by Swedenborg Foundation.
All right. What page is it?
Page, it's like a page on smartphone, but if you will type there section 523, do you see this? The section 523. It's like a page, and it's better than page because it's section. Because page is different on my smartphone from PDF pages.
Okay, 523. Got it.
What's wrong with my screen? What's wrong with my screen? You
Like
cannot read?
it's just
because,
smaller and
because
I'm
of
on
type.
PC. No worries. It's just a preference. Your stream is good quality and stuff. So
I mean, if you are on PC, you can make a full screen on Discord, because Discord can make full screen, and it will be better to read.
also
Because
you want me to stream or
no, I mean, you can see my stream on Discord, and you can make full screen, and it will be better. I mean, font size will big, because I checked it out on my PC, and it was good to read. It's type font size was very big to read. I mean, maybe you can make full screen, and it will be better to read on stream.
All right.
You understand what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
Do you see the bottom of full screen?
Yeah, I know how it works, buddy. But I still prefer to view it on PDF.
And if you will hide other people in this room, it will be more big.
Okay.
You can hide people.
All right.
Is it okay right now? I mean,
Yeah.
full screen
Yeah,
of
it is okay.
stream. Mhm.
So Genesis 5:25, and the Methuselah lived 187 years and fathered Lamech. Methuselah symbolizes the eighth church, and Lamech the ninth. Nothing specific is mentioned about the nature of the church meant by Methuselah, but its perception did grow general and dim, as can be seen from the description of the church called Noah. So it grew less sound, and as it did, its wisdom and understanding faded. Genesis 5:26-27. And after Methuselah fathered Lamech, he lived 782 years, and he fathered sons and daughters. And all Methuselah's days were 969 years, and he died. The meaning here are the same as for the rest. Genesis 5:28, and Lamech lived 182 years, and he fathered a son. Lamech here symbolizes the ninth church, whose perception of truth and goodness was so general and vague. Could you check that word?
Maybe vague. Maybe in my
Okay.
maybe yeah.
Vague.
1 second.
Vague.
I will
Okay.
make. Yeah, it's.
Vague.
Can you
Yeah.
hear? Vague.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Whose perception
Vague is
of
like
truth? Oh yeah.
unclear and like uncertain, unclear.
Yeah.
Vague.
Whose perception of truth and goodness was so general and vague as to be almost non-existent. So it was a church devastated. The sun symbolizes the beginning of a new church. The symbolism of Lamech as a church, whose perception of truth and goodness was so general and vague as to be almost non-existent. So that it was a church devastated, is established by the preceding verses. What follows, since the next verse describes this church, established the same meaning again. In the last chapter, Lamech symbolized almost the same thing as here, namely devastation. The man who fathered him there had almost the same name, Methuselah. So that the symbolism is almost the same as well. Methuselah and Methuselah symbolize something that is dying, and Lamech something destroyed. Genesis 5:29. And he called his name Noah, saying, He will counsel us for our work and for the distress of our hands from the ground, which Jehovah cursed. Noah.
What is console? What is console? Like consulting or console? No.
Console, like I know only
comfort.
I know only like the software meaning. So console is console, so control.
Do you see synonymous comfort? I think it's
cheer.
like he will comfort you.
He will cheer us for our work. Yeah. And for the distress of our hands from the ground, which Jehovah cursed. Noah symbolizes the ancient church, consoling us from our work and for the distress of our hands from the ground which Jehovah cursed, symbolizes the doctrine that was to restore what had been corrupted. The symbolism of Noah as the ancient church, the progenitor. What's the progenitor?
Progenitor, like forefather, like this.
Or protoplast,
Ancestor.
something like that.
Progenitor.
Ancestor, like
Alright.
founder.
The progenitor of the three churches that followed the flood will become clear in what follows, where Noah is treated of at length. Okay, this text apparently is too hard for me because it's about God and is written in specific way. So yeah, I'm about to stop here. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for reading. I will continue. The names in this chapter, as noted, symbolize different churches or doctrinal systems, which are the same thing since because of its doctrine. So Noah symbolizes the ancient church or the doctrine left from the earliest church. The way matters stand with churches and their theologies has been mentioned before. They tend to dwindle until
Dwindle.
like degenerate, dwindle until none of the goodness of or truth associated with faith remains any longer, and then described as devastated. Still, you in whom religious goodness and truth endure is always preserved. If that goodness and truth were not preserved, then there would be no bound joining heaven and the human race together. about the remnant that exists in an individual person. The fever, the traces of goodness and truth, the fever. Fewer, it's like less. Fewer. It's about few. The fewer the traces of goodness and truth remaining with us, the weaker the light that shines on our rational concepts and the facts we know. The weaker, weaker, like small, weaker. It's about weak. The fewer the traces of goodness and truth remaining with us, the weaker the light that shines on our rational concepts and the facts we know. The light of good and truth flows in from those traces, or rather through them from the Lord. If we had no remnant, we would not be human, but much worse than an animal. The smaller a remnant we have, the less human we are. The larger a remnant, the more human. A remnant is like a star in the sky. The smaller it is, the less light it gives, and the larger it is, the more light it gives. The few traces that remained from the earliest church were present with those composing the church called Noah. What they retained, though, was not retained.
Retained.
It's like hold, kept, retained, preserved. Though was not vestiges. Vestiges.
Vestiges.
Vestiges. like remnant vestiges of perception, but of integrity. Integrity.
Integrity.
Holiness. Holiness.
Wholeness.
Wholeness. Wholeness. Wholeness. Integrity. Wholeness. And so the theology derived from the perceptions of the earliest churches. Consequently, a new church was now raised up by the Lord for the first time. Because its character was completely different from that of the earliest churches, it must be called the ancient church. It is called ancient because it existed at the end of the centuries preceding the flood and in the first era following it. The Lord in His divine mercies willing, this church will be discussed further in what follows. Further in what follows. Further. The symbolism of consoling us for our work and for the distress of our hands from the ground which Jehovah cursed as the doctrine that was to restore which had been perverted will also by the Lord's divine mercy be seen in what follows. Work means that such people could not perceive what was true without a great deal of effort and anguish. The distress of our hands from the ground which Jehovah cursed means that they were unable to do anything good. This is how Lamech, or the church that lay in ruins, is described. The work and labor of our hands is when people have to rely on themselves or their own powers to find out what is true or do what is good. Anything that then results is the ground that Jehovah cursed, that is something entirely false and evil. For what it means to say that Jehovah curses. See section 245. Consoling, however, relates to the son Noah, who symbolizes a new rebirth, and so a new church, which is the ancient church. This church of Noah also symbolizes a time of rest and the consolation that comes with rest. Consolation.
Consolation.
Like consult. Comfort. Consult. Consult. Consoling. It's like console. Consoling, yeah. And consolation. That comes with rest, just as it was said of the earliest church that it was the seventh day, the day of the Lord's rest. See, Genesis 5:30-31. And after Lamech fathered Noah, he lived 595 years, and he fathered sons and daughters. And all Lamech's days were 777 years, and he died. Lamech, as noted, symbolizes a church devastated or in ruins. His sons and daughters symbolize what is conceived and born in such a church. As nothing more is said of Lamech either than that he fathered sons and daughters, which are the things conceived and born in such a church, there is no need to linger further. How to pronounce it? Further.
Further.
Further. Further. Further. Further.
Further.
Further. Further. Further. No need to linger further. 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 Further and further.
Linger.
Linger. It's like delay. Just watch the offspring, the daughters and sons can be seen from the church itself, since the offspring have the same character as the church. Both the church called Methuselah and the one called Lamech passed away right before the flood. Genesis 5:32. And Noah was a son of 500 years, and Noah fathered Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Noah was mentioned symbolizes the ancient church. Shem, Ham, and Japheth symbolize the three ancient churches whose progenitor was the ancient church named Noah. The church called Noah should not be counted among the churches preceding the flood, as verse 29 makes clear. The church was to console them from their work and from the labor of their hands from the ground which Jehovah had cursed. The consolation was that it would survive and endure. But more will be said about Noah and his sons below with the Lord's divine mercy. The perceptive ability of the churches that came before the flood is discussed many times above, but in modern days, perception is a wholly unknown thing. The ignorance about it is so great that people are capable of believing it to be a kind of ongoing, ongoing,
Ongoing.
like current, ongoing, continuing revelation, or else something instinctive. Some suppose that it is no more than make believe, while others have other ideas. Yet perception is the epitome. Epitome.
Epitome.
Epitome. Epitome.
Epitome.
Incarnation. Epitome. 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 Yet perception is the epitome of the heavenly character that the Lord gives to those who have a loving belief in Him. Perception exists throughout heaven in untold variety. So, with the Lord's divine mercy, let me describe below the general kinds as they exist in the heavens. Heaven and heavenly joy continued. A spirit once lodged. Mhm. Maybe someone wants to continue from this. Heaven and heavenly joy continued. So, mhm. A spirit. Sorry, what? Do you want to read?
No, you can read.
Okay. A spirit once lodged onto me at my left, asking whether I knew how he could get into heaven. I was permitted to answer that being allowed into heaven was up to the Lord alone, since only He knows what we are like. A large number of people coming from the world seek nothing more than to enter heaven, not having the least idea what heaven or heavenly joy is. They do not realize that heaven is the sharing of love, or that heavenly joy is the joy this love imparts. imparts.
Imparts.
It's like give, transmit, instill, share, impart. Those who do not know are first taught what heaven and its joy are, and one of the ways they learn is through personal experience. For example, one spirit who himself had recently arrived from the world shared the same desire for heaven as the first spirit. To give him a sense of heaven's nature, his inner resistis, what is it? Recesses?
Recesses.
Recesses. It's like inner hollow. Cache. Cache.
Cache.
Like inner cache. Recesses. Yeah, recesses.
Recesses.
Recesses like cache. His inner recesses were opened up so that he could feel something of heavenly joy, but when he felt it, he started to wail and writhe, writhe,
Ride.
writhe, like suffer, writhe, and writhe beginning, and writhe begging to be released, begging like beg, like
Begging.
asking, plea, begging to be released. He was so distressed that survival was impossible, he said. As a result, his inner reaches were closed off to heaven, and he then revived.
Revived.
It's like raised, restored, revived. It's about life. And he then revived. This demonstrates how anxiety and the no knowing anxiety like
Anxiety.
fear, craving. It's like fear, anxiety, and knowing,
Kneeing.
knowing, knowing, like tormenting, knowing. But transcription
Kneeing.
is like knowing, maybe in dictionary. Knowing, knowing, yeah, it's knowing. Knowing. Okay. Knowing of conscience. It's like one term. The knowing of conscience. The knowing, the knowing conscience. Knowing. Conscience torture people who are let into heaven for just a short time if they are not right for it. Although another another group with no idea what heaven is like was also making an effort to get it. They were told that unless they possessed a faith inspired by love, entering heaven was as dangerous as walking through fire. But they still insisted. insisted.
Insisted.
It's like urge, sick. They still insisted on reaching the front entryway, the lower realm of angelic spirits. They received such a blow that they went tearing. Received such a blow.
Blow.
Blow. It's about like it's about wind. Blow. Breath. They received such a blow that they went tearing off in the opposite direction as fast as they could go. From this, they learned how much danger there was in merely approaching heaven before the Lord had prepared them to feel the emotions that come with faith. A certain spirit who in bodily life had considered adultery perfectly harmless was also allowed to cross heaven's first threshold, since that was what he wanted. On arriving there, he began to suffer and to smell his own corpse-like stench. Corpse-like stench. It's horrible, very horrible to smell our own corpse-like stench. Wow. These sensations grew until he could no longer stand them. If he had gone up any further, it seemed to him he would have been destroyed. Consequently, he was banished from there to the underground realm. He felt angry that crossing heaven's first threshold meant undergoing such tortures, since he was entering an environment environment environment
Environment.
environment environment envi envir environment environment environment
Environment.
environment opposed to adultery. He is one of the unfortunate ones. Unfortunate ones.
Unfortunate.
Unfortunate, like helpless, unhappy. He is one of the unfortunate ones. Unfortunate. Almost no one coming into the other life understands what the blessings and happiness of heaven are, since they do not know what deep-seated joys or what it feels like. Deep-seated.
Deep-seated.
Yeah. Like deep placed. Deep-seated joys or what it feels like. They can grasp it only in relation to bodily and worldly kinds of happiness and joy, and whatever they do not know about, they consider worthless. Nevertheless, bodily and worldly trials are relatively worthless and filthy. Trials.
Thrills.
Thrills. Thrills is like sharp sensation. Thrills
Thrills.
are relatively, maybe relatively, yeah,
Relatively.
relatively, relatively, yeah, are relatively worthless and filthy. In order for those who are honest but ignorant to learn what heavenly joy is and to come to recognize it, they are introduced first into scenes of paradise that surpass anything they could ever have imagined. Surpass.
Surpass.
Surpass. It's like overcome, exceed. Surpass. Surpass. That surpass anything they could ever have imagined. With the Lord's divine mercy, these scenes will be described forever, will be described further on. They suppose they have now entered the heavenly paradise, but they are taught that this is not the true happiness of heaven. Next, they experience profound states of joy in their deepest core. Afterward, they are carried into a state of peace, reaching to the same deep level. They confess that nothing about that peace could ever be captured in word or thought. Finally, they are brought into a state of innocence that again reaches right to their deepest level of sensation. This allows them to recognize what true good is like on the spiritual and heavenly planes. Some who had no idea what heavenly joy was were ab- abruptly, abruptly,
Abruptly.
abruptly, like suddenly, suddenly, carried up into heaven, abruptly, carried up into heaven. They had been reduced to a condition in which they could be lifted up, their bodily desires and their delusions having been put to sleep. I heard one of them saying to me from there that now for the first time he could feel how much joy there was in heaven. He admitted that he had been grossly deceived. Grossly? What is it?
Grossly.
Grossly, like extremely. Very. Had been grossly deceived that he had held a very different view and that he could now perceive the deepest degree of his own joy, which was immeasurably. What is it? Immeasurably.
Immeasurably.
Immeasurably. Immeasurably. It's about measure. Mhm. In, incomparably. Immeasurably.
Immeasurably.
Which was immeasurably more than he had ever felt at the peak of any sensual experience during during his physical during his physical existence. During peak.
Peak.
It's like maximum. At the peak of any sensual experience during his physical existence. He called the pleasures that he and his companions usually enjoy foul. And those who are taken to heaven for the purpose of discovering what it is like, bodily desires and delusions are put to sleep, since no one can enter heaven bringing such things alone from the world, either that or they are surrounded with the aura of spirits who moderate the unclean and discordant things in them in a miraculous way. Some people may have their inner recesses opened.
Recesses.
Recesses, like cash, cash. Inner recesses opened. Inner recesses opened. These are some of the methods or preparation, and there are others depending on the way people have lived and the character they have acquired along the way. Once some spirits eager to explore that heavenly joy was like were granted the opportunity to perceive the deepest level of their own joy up to the point where they could no longer stand it. It was no angelic joy. It was not an angelic joy and barely resembled even the last of such joys. Barely.
Barely.
Like only, just barely. Resembled. Resembled.
Resembled.
Remind. Assimilate. Even the list of such joys as I could tell from their joy was communicated to me. It was so paltry, paltry,
Poultry.
paltry, paltry, like small, cheap, paltry, miserable, It was so paltry as to seem rather cold. Still they pronounced it most heavily, since it was the deepest of their own joys. This experience showed not only that there are different levels, but also that the deepest level of one kind barely extends to the swallowest, to the shallowest, shallowest.
Shallowest.
Shallowest, like small. Small. Shallowest or middle level of another. It demonstrated further that when we gain our most profound joy, most profound joy,
Profound.
it's like deep, most profound joy, we are in our own heavenly joy. We cannot bear deeper, we cannot bear any deeper variety which would only end up turning painful for us. A group admitted into the innocent state of the first heaven spoke to me from there and confessed that the condition of that heaven was so glad and joyful that it could never be imagined in the least. This was in merely the first heaven. There are 3 heavens, and each enjoys a state of innocence with all its countless variations. In order to teach me about the existence and nature of heaven and heavenly joy, the Lord has given me the opportunity to perceive the pleasures of heavenly joy frequently or for extended periods. Because I have learned these things by actually experiencing them, I possess the knowledge but cannot possibly put it into words. To offer just an idea of it, the countless pleasures and joys there which come together to create a single experience shared by all carry with them a certain emotion. Within that common experience or that common emotion are points of harmony among a boundless number of feelings. These individual points of harmony do not come clearly but only vague, vaguely.
Vaguely.
Vaguely, like dimly, vaguely, to our awareness because our perception is extremely generalized. Even so, I was allowed to perceive that there were countless parts organized in a way that can never be described. Those countless parts flow from the order that exists in heaven, which determines their nature. The smallest individual elements of an emotion are organized in such a way that they are presented and sensed only as a collective whole according to the capacities of the person who feels the emotion. Capacities.
Capacities.
It's like ability, capacity, ability. In a word, every whole has an unlimited number of parts organized in the most perfect way. Every one of the parts is alive and every one of them affects us. And the way to our inmost recesses, inmost recesses, maybe recesses,
Recesses.
yeah, recesses, yeah, recesses, like cash, inmost recesses. For the inmost recesses where heavenly joy comes from, I also perceived that joy and pleasure seemed to come from a heart gently permeating all the inmost fibers of my body, and thus all the bundles of fibers. Bundles of fibers.
Bundles.
Bundles. Bundles of fibers. It's like fuck. The sensation of the joy at the deepest levels made it seem as though each fiber was composed of nothing but joy and pleasure, and all the perceptiveness and sensitivity that come with joy and pleasure. The fiber seemed alive with happiness. The joy we feel in physical indulgence compared to these joys is like a cord, stinging dust, compared to the gentlest, gentlest breath of pure air. Gentlest.
Gentlest.
Yeah,
Gentle. It's like gentle. Actually, it's maybe, yeah, 4 pages else.
Yeah.
The following experience was to teach me what happens with people who are eager to enter heaven but are not of a type that can stay there. Once, while I was in a community in heaven, an angel appeared to me as a little child wearing a wreath of dazzling sky blue flowers on its head and garlands of other colors circling its chest. From this sign, I was able to recognize that I was in a particular community where charity existed. Then into the same community came when then into the same community came some upstanding spirits who, on entering, suddenly became much more intelligent and started talking like angelic spirits. Next to be admitted was a group of people who claimed to be innocent on their own merits. Their condition was represented to me by a baby spitting up milk. Spitting up. Ah,
Spitting up milk. Spitting.
it's like what? Ah, yes, it's like spit.
Spitting.
Yeah. You know?
Ah, baby can can spit up milk. Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm Afterward came people who supposed that their own good thinking made them intelligent. Their condition was represented in their faces, which were angular. Angular. What is it? Angular.
Angular.
Ah, it's like
Oh.
face.
Yeah. Yeah.
Angular face. Yeah.
Correct.
Angular.
I only know the word angular as like rotationary or something like that. I didn't know that it can mean awkward. Okay. That's new.
And we
Continue.
can say it about face too. Yeah, angular.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Angular, but reason. They appeared wearing pointed hats with a protruding spike. Protruding. Protruding spike. Ah,
Protruding.
Important. Yeah.
protruding. Okay, it's like
Protruding.
protruding.
It's like protruding.
Protruding spike. Still, their faces did not seem to be made of human flesh, but looked like lifeless sculptures. This is the condition of those who believe that they can make themselves spiritual or acquire faith on their own. Other spirits were allowed in who were unable to stay there. Overwhelmed with dismay and anxiety, they fled the place. Next chapter is Genesis 6. Maybe someone wants to read this.
What is this?
It's the book of Emmanuel Swedenborg, Secrets of Heaven. This is this book you can see.
Oh. Okay.
It's about spiritual meaning of book of Genesis of the Bible.
Oh.
And, actually, it's about mind and matrix, maybe.
That's
Like
interesting.
spiritual world, like matrix. Do you know which is matrix?
Yeah, I know the
It's like
Matrix. Yeah.
yeah. Mm, actually, it's about inner world like this, the
Oh,
world of minds, maybe.
my mind. Okay.
Can you read?
Oh, okay. Heaven and heavenly joy continued. None of the souls who come into the other life know what heaven or heavenly joy is. Most think it's a joy they can enter into regardless of how they have lived, even though who hated their neighbor and okay, indulged in a life of adultery, believe this entirely unaware that heaven is love, a love both mutual and chaste. Why is this like those lines between the words?
Lions.
No, they like
What's the word?
love. Yeah, what is that between love and a and chaste and what is that? Uh,
Mutual. Mutual.
no,
Mutual
not
is
that.
like
Not that.
it's
Yeah,
like
I know you're mutual. I don't like between love, the word love, and the letter A, there is a weird symbol. What is that?
uh this word love, yeah,
No,
love
yeah,
both
yeah. Go left, little bit to the left.
love.
Yeah, in the
This love.
middle. Yeah, look at the A. What's in the middle between love and A? What is that? That dash.
Mm. Uh,
What is that? Why is it here?
is love. That heaven is love. It's like describing a love both. Because what I mean, do you mean love and a love? Yeah, heaven is love, a love both mutual and
No.
chaste.
I mean like this. This. What is this? Why is there that kind of like line in between love
Uh,
and A? Can you see that line? Like love.
it's like is. It's like a verb to be, like auxiliary verb. I mean, this line means is like
Love is
is
a
love
love.
is
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Now I understand. Okay, that's
Uh-huh.
weird. Why? But why? Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. And chaste is and how? Okay. And that heavenly joy is the happiness welling up from love. Several times I have talked to spirits newly arrived from the world about the conditions of eternal life. It's important for you to know who the Lord of the re realm is, what his style of government is like, and what the form of government is. I pointed out on Earth the first thing you have to do when entering another country is to learn the identity and character of the monarch. What is the monarch?
Monarch is like a king, ruler of any country, like
Okay.
tsar,
Monarch.
Yeah.
monarch, king, hmm
Yeah. Good.
lord.
Then, nice. The nature of the government and other information about the country. How much more so in this realm where you will live forever? The Lord alone rules, not just heaven, but the whole universe. I said, actually, I thought, okay, whoever rules the one, okay, whoever rules the one rules the other. Okay, the kingdom in which you now find yourself is the Lord's. The law of this kingdom are eternal truths, all founded on this solitary law. You are to love the Lord above all, and your neighbor as yourself. Not only this, in fact, but if you want to be like angels, you will have to
Angels.
love angels. Okay. Angel
Mhm.
is angel, angel is angel. Okay.
Yeah.
Angels.
Angels like heavenly citizens.
Yeah.
Angels.
You will have to love your neighbor more than yourselves. You love yourselves. Okay. To all they had, those,
Solitary, solitary law.
yeah.
What does it mean, solitary? It's like single.
Solitary.
I know what is like solitary, but what is solitary law? It's like maybe
Take both of them, I think.
isolated, lonely, single. Single law. Yeah, on this single law, like this.
Yeah, so yeah, in the single, yeah.
Mhm.
To read from.
They had no answer.
No answer because during bodily lives they had heard something similar, but had not believed it. They were astounded to hear that in heaven people can and do love their neighbor more than themselves. I hate that dash in the end. Although they had heard that they should love their neighbor as themselves, everything good in the next life expands without limit. I told them life bounded by the body is such that we can't progress any farther, I guess. Yeah. Than loving our neighbor as ourselves, because we are wrapped up in bodily concerns. But when these concerns have been laid aside, love grows purer and purer until at last it's angelic. Angelic love is to love one's neighbor more than oneself. That kind of love is possible. You could have known from the love between certain married partners who would prefer this to seeing their spouse injured.
hmm
Yeah, you could have known it from the love parents have for their children. A mother would rather starve than see her baby go hungry. And this is true even among birds and animals. You could have known it from true friendship in people who risk danger for the sake of their friends. You could even have known it from polite friendship, the Britons that tries to pass for real. What is the meaning of pretense?
Pretense. It's like to pretend. To pretend, like to pretend. To
Pretext, pretense,
pretend.
claim. Yeah, like pretend is
Deception.
another word.
Ah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
claim.
Pretense.
yeah. Pretense. For example, your heart is so greedy, but pretends to be humble, like this. Pretends.
Okay.
Mhm. To pass for real friendship.
A friendship in which we offer the better portions to those in our good grace and bear selflessness on our lips, though not in our hearts. Last, you could have known it from the nature of love, which is such that its joy is to serve others, not for one's own sake, but for the other persons. But these things were incomprehensible to those who loved themselves more than others. I still hate that dash in the end. Like I can't. I don't know if it's the end of the word or not. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Wait. How many bays are this?
How many what?
Like how many bays are left in this?
Based. I don't understand this word. Or maybe
Base
rephrase it.
base. B A base.
How many bays?
No.
I think you mean bees. Is
No,
it?
Bees?
beige, like paper. Like every paper in a book is a beige.
Sorry, I don't understand it.
When
That.
you okay, I will continue. Friendship in which we offer is a better portion. I did read this one.
Mhm.
Go.
Next, next page, yeah. Into
Yeah.
those.
Yeah, you said it, beige.
Is it like a fruit?
No, okay. and to those who have been money grubbing during physical life, last understanding of all wears misery. The angelic state is such that anyone conveys his or her own blessings and happiness to others in the next life. There is a communication. Communication, oh, okay. And keen perception of all feelings and thoughts, so that in the sharing of joy each
What is?
communi-
I forgot what is keen and keen perception. Keen,
oh keen I know what
Keen.
keen,
it's
like
like
sensitive. Yeah, strong,
no or
sharp,
deep. Here it means like deep
deep,
or strong, you know,
like deep perception. Okay.
or strong
Do I,
perception. Yeah.
each each communicates.
Yeah, okay. I was like, what does Nicates mean?
What's up, guys?
Mhm.
What's up, Hector?
Hello. We are reading the book.
What's up?
You can see on the stream.
You can read the book if you want. It's a book we're reading.
Oh, can I?
Oh, go. Go for it.
Can I try?
Go.
Okay,
Yeah,
communicate
it's
Okay,
to
go on. I
all
will go
and
next.
all to each, which essentially makes every individual the center of all the rest. This is how heaven is set up. As a result, the more people there are to make up the Lord's kingdom, the greater the happiest is. It increases as the numbers increase. This is why heavenly happiness is expressible, such
Inexpressible.
as
is
inexpressible. Sorry.
Yeah.
what is it? Inexpressible, like
You can.
expressible and
Yeah.
inexpressible.
I think it's
Inexpressible.
just the contrary of expressible.
No.
It's like undescribable.
Yeah, like
I mean,
indescribable.
you cannot say it. You cannot say about it in words because it is inexpressible. Yeah.
You can describe it in words, but numbers can't. 2 out of 10. You know?
Maybe in pictures you
Yeah.
can describe it. Maybe in
How was
stories.
I?
What?
I mean, no, I mean, how was my readings?
Good. Continue.
Ah, very good.
Good.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Go on.
Continue.
Oh, okay. So, such a such a sharing of all with one and one with all exist whenever we love another person more than ourselves. But when the wish better, sorry, but when we wish better to ourselves than to another, self-love takes control. Self-love shares nothing of its own with others except its self-conception, which is actually something extremely filthy. When this conception is perceived by others, we are immediately cut off and rejected. I think I would leave it there. If somebody else wants
Is
to
that a
try.
novel or a book?
I'm wondering
Well,
actually what
I'm doing my best to understand. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's
He means that egoists cannot live in heaven; they will be rejected. I understand it like this. Yeah, like
yeah.
who are in self love. like self-conception. They are rejected.
Hmm.
It means, yeah.
Go, Hector.
Okay. Each and every part of the human body cooperate with the other and oppose the overall functioning,
Function.
okay, of
Function.
the whole and the specific functioning of
The
each
specific.
part. I'm sorry. Of each part, it is the same in the Lord's kingdom, which is like a single human being and is also named the universal human. Everyone there works together, whether at close quarters or more, at at a distance, and by many different means. This takes place in accord with the okay with the accord, plan established and constantly reinforced by the Lord alone for the sake of everyone's happiness. The wall of heaven and its what the
Individual.
individual, okay, inhabitants without exception trace their origin to the Lord alone. In
Origin.
general, origin to the Lord alone. In general and in the smallest particulars, this is the source of order, of unity, of mutual love, and of happiness because the okay of, because that is what causes same word again
Individuals.
individual, okay, to look to the health and happiness of all and all to the every individual. Many experiences have shown me that all joy and happiness in heaven come from the Lord alone. At this point, let me recount just one such experience. I saw that certain angelic spirits using the
Angelic.
great angelic, okay, angelic spirits using the greatest possible what's this care, okay. We're making we're making an orange lampstand.
What is it? Ornate lampstand.
I do
Ornate.
okay.
I can't. Okay.
It's something that you put on top.
I
You know,
know
it's
it,
like a
but I
crown.
don't.
It's like a
Oh.
elegant, magnificent, okay.
Ornate.
Ornate.
Okay.
Magnificent.
With the lamps and flowers. In the Lord's honor, for an hour or two, I was allowed to observe how hard they worked to make absolutely everything beautiful and full of significance. They felt that the leper was their own, but I was able to sense clearly that they could invent nothing by their own power. Finally, several hours later, they said they had succeeded in making a gorgeous lampstand with all its representative art in honor of the Lord.
Representative.
And at this they rejoiced from the depths of their being. I told them, however, that at no time had they designed or created anything on their own, but that it was the Lord alone who had done this for them. At first, they were scarcely willing to believe it, but being angelic,
Scarcely.
scarcely, okay, willing to believe it, but being angelic spirits, they received enlightenment and confused that it was so. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you very much. Who wants to read next? Maybe.
You didn't need
Okay.
your turn. Go.
The same is true for all their other representative objects, for all their feelings and thoughts without exception.
Yeah.
exception without T. Yeah, exception or exception.
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 Yeah, without T. Exception. Exception. And so for heavenly joy and happiness, the least of them all come from the Lord alone. Those who know how to share love are constantly advancing into the springtime of their youth in heaven. And the more millennia they live, the more joyful and happy that springtime is. Their progress continues forever. It's never ending. It's never ending increase determined by their development and growth in the capacity for sharing love in charity and in faith. A woman who dies old, worn out by age, and who lived a life marked by faith in the Lord, charity toward her neighbors, and a happy, loving marriage with her husband, such a woman develops more and more of the bloom of mid and early womanhood with the passage of years. She takes on a loveliness that eclipses. What is it? Eclipses?
Eclipses.
Eclipses. It's like overshadow. A loveliness that eclipses any conception of beauty ever seen by the eye. Virtue and kindness are what shape her and make her likeness of themselves. They cause the joy and beauty of neighborly love to shine out from the smallest details of her face, so that she becomes a form of charity itself. Some observers have been struck speechless on seeing these women. The inner working of charity are such that charity itself is what provides the visible form and is the thing expressed in that form too. This is clear from actual experience in the other life. The whole angel, especially the face, is charity, which is both clearly presented to view and clearly perceived. To see the form is to see inexpressible beauty that touches the deepest living riches of the mind, filling them with charity. The beauty of the form provides an image in which religious truth is displayed, truth that is also perceived from that form. Those who have lived a life marked by faith in the Lord, that is by the faith that comes of charity.
I
Sorry,
have
what?
to leave now. It was fun. That book actually is really interesting, but I have to leave. It was fun. Okay, have
Yeah,
fun,
thank you
guys.
for your participating.
Yeah, no problem. It was fun anyway. Enjoy the book. It's actually really interesting. Yeah.
Actually, yeah, because actually this book is like next level in understanding who we are,
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. It's like,
I will. I
what
will.
is your opinion? What does this book? What is this book about?
I feel like it's about. Okay, it's kind of about what is heaven, what will happen to you when you like. It's trying to describe what's in heaven and or what people saw from heaven, or how should you be to go to heaven, something like that. Because
Yeah,
mostly,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
because most of the stuff I read were about how to love others more than yourself, and how to show love, and how pure love can be. So it's describing the best of us, how to be good,
I have a question.
Okay.
What would you
Mm-hmm.
guys would expect of heaven?
Oh, okay. I have to leave. You can continue that. Okay, guys, have fun.
Yeah, goodbye, see you.
Bye bye.
Heaven. Heaven is like a state of happiness, yeah? It's like where we can be happy. I understand it like this. It's about state of mind, yeah? Because it's like in heaven is inner world. I mean, we can be in heaven by our mind because it's a state of mind. And if
Okay,
we are happy, we are in heaven.
so do you? I mean, I don't know. I was about to ask you, like, how would you define it? Defines it as like maybe are you visualize it as a place to be, like any places that we are on Earth? Like, are you, like, how would you conceptualize it?
It's not a place like physical place, but it's a state of mind because it's like a dream. Dream. When you sleep, you can see dreams. You can dream
Yeah.
dreams, yeah. And within your dreams, you see yourself like a real man. Like you think it is yourself in
Hmm.
your dreams, yeah. But who is that within your dreams? Because is it your physical man or spiritual? No, it's not physical, yeah, but you can say it's like your inner man, like your spiritual man. And it means there is no difference between you and your physical body because you think it is yourself within your dreams. Yeah. And it means the mind looks like you yourself. And you can
So
be happy in your
basically,
dreams.
what you're saying is that when we enter heaven, nothing changes except the physical world.
Yeah. Yeah. Swedenborg writes about it that we see no difference between because it's like a dream. We will fall asleep and we will think and people will think that we are dead, we died, but actually death does not exist in this sense because spirit cannot die, because mind cannot die. It's like next level in development of mind, and we live in the world of information. And the spiritual world is a world of information, and only information can make us happy. Yeah, because our happiness depends from our information. For example, if you got a lot of money, you can
Yeah.
say, "Oh, I'm happy now. Yeah, I'm happy. I'm very happy because I'm rich. I'm so rich."
Hmm.
It means you received information about money you have,
Yeah.
and this information makes you happy. Yeah,
Hmm.
not money. Not money make you happy, but information about money makes you happy. Am I right? Because your mind received that
Mm,
information that you have money
yeah.
in your
Okay.
pocket or bank maybe, and
Okay.
but you don't see your money. If your money are in bank,
Yeah.
you have a lot of money in bank, but you don't see money, but you know about it.
But
I mean,
you,
it
you
means
don't
you.
you don't
Mhm.
need to see money.
Yeah, you have no need to see money to be happy, because it depends from your knowledge, because you got knowledge about money, about your money, and this knowledge makes you happy. Do you see? because
Yeah.
our mind is information thing,
Okay.
and it means that happiness depends from knowledge, from information, because we people are information beings, and it means you can program your mind, and you can be happy without money. You can be in prison, for example, and you can be happy there, but you can be on a paradise island and you can be unhappy there, because our minds are information things. It's like a computer, and if you will install a good program into your mind, you, that knowledge can make you happy. Actually, paradise and heaven is like a very good computer program, like operation system with programs, and your mind
Do you
works
know?
correctly.
Do you know who created that program?
We call him God because God is like a programmer, like programmist. And we live in matrix, in a big personal computer. Maybe have you heard about theory of simulation? I think this theory is from this book. For example, Elon Musk believes in simulation, and he says that we all 1 billion% that we all live within a big personal computer in a video game. It's like a matrix. And I think this theory is from books of Swedenborg, because Swedenborg wrote about it.
Mm.
Because heaven is like the world of information. It's information world. And after death, actually right now we live in the world of information by our minds, yeah. Because where we are right now, we are in the Discord. And this is a world of information. It's like matrix, because we are far from each other by our physical bodies, but by our minds we are in the one room, yeah. And it means our mind is an information thing, because Discord is a part of an information world, like the world of information. It means we can be happy in Discord, yeah. Right now we can be happy if we have fun, for example, yeah. If you have any knowledge, if you share our knowledge, if you receive any knowledge, and in, in in our conversations we can be happy, and we can
What
say I am in heaven right now, I am in paradise right now. You see.
what what is the most interesting information you got from this book?
uh, because it's like about how can you, because we can understand where we are right now, because your eyes can be opened, your mind can be opened, and you can see paradise, and you can see heaven open, and you can see angels, and this book makes you possible to understand how it works. And if you know about it more, because Swedenborg had that experience, he
Yeah, but
he.
I get what you
Mhm.
mean. I get what you're trying to say, but what I'm asking is more at a on a personal level, like you as a reader who read this book. What was um what was the most interesting thing for you that you said, oh, that's like, you know what I mean, like while reading? What was the most shocking things you ever learned while reading this book?
I see my goal and purpose, because uh, before books of Swedenborg, I didn't understand what I'm doing here on this earth. But now I understand my predestination, I understand my goal and purpose. And from his books, I understand it more clearly what you're doing here, and what is my goal.
Purpose, maybe.
Yeah, purpose. What is my purpose? Because and it's about happiness. Because Swedenborg was very smart and wise person, and he is a genius, and he has third highest IQ in history. His IQ is 206. It's this third highest IQ in history, and I believe that if I will read his books, I will be more smart and wise. Because our smartness depends from information we receive, and we receive information from books. Because I read about experience of Swedenborg, and I know it because if it was possible for him, if it was possible for a lot of God's people, it means that it's possible for me too. It's like you can see angels right now within your dreams and visions. You can see angels, and you can talk with them, and angels will teach you. To teach about what? To live good life, to make the world a better place. Well, it's about your goal, because what is your goal? What is your purpose? What do you want to do here on this planet Earth?
Okay. I don't think I'm ready to. I don't know actually. I mean, it sounds interesting. I mean, I'm talking about the book, but I don't feel like I'm in a stage of my life when I'm gonna care about what's coming next. Even though I've thought about it like many times. I'm pretty sure like everybody did. But I don't know. I mean, to me, it's like something that like talking about heaven and what's coming after. It's so untouchable for me. Like like I cannot even reach that. You know. So for me, it's like, why would I? That's how I feel. It's like, why would I even bother trying to understand something that I know nobody can say? You know, it knows what it is exactly. Not exactly, but in a way that's gonna have impactful meaning to me right now. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know anybody who could pretend to tell me this is what heaven is. This is what it does. This is what's happening. You know what I mean? And I'm like, as long there is nobody who can provide me such information, like why am I gonna bother, like, trying to understand by myself? But I'm not saying that I'm not interested in it. Of course I'm deeply interested in it. It's just that when I see something, when I'm facing something that I cannot break down, you know what I mean, like debunked, I'm just like passing over, until somebody can do it, and then I'm gonna come back at it, like, what have you discovered? You know what I mean? The thing is that book, like, does that book does that? You know what I mean? Like, does this book explain it in a way that suddenly you're gonna be like, okay, I know everything about heaven, or is it just implying things like vaguely? You know what I mean? What does it do?
Heaven, heaven is a lot of communities, because heaven is people. Actually, heaven is not a place. Heaven is a lot of angels. Actually, like, for example, any country of this world is not a place. Yeah, for example, take a look at your country. For example, take a look at USA. For example, what is USA like country? Is it a land or not? What is it?
I would say yes.
No.
It's a land.
No, actually, it's not a land, because concerning of Constitution of USA and Constitution of any countries, USA is a people. It's a people. It's people, like a nation, a nation.
Okay.
USA is a nation. It's a living thing, because land is not living thing, but every country is living thing, because it's like a community, and these people.
I get it. Yeah, I see what you.
Yeah,
I see what you mean.
and your country where you live, I sure concerning of Constitution, it's people too, because it's people, and heaven is a community of angels, because it's the kingdom of God. We can say kingdom of God and heaven, and the kingdom of heaven are the same thing. And actually, this book, I mean, books of Swedenborg, are about building of an ideal just society. Like the main goal and purpose of God is to make the world a better place and to build the ideal just society on earth as it is in heaven. Because heaven is perfect society, because angels are perfect, and God is perfect, and God is the king of heaven, like king of heavenly kingdom, and heavenly kingdom is God's angels, because and actually every kingdom and like country is about law, because every country lives on laws of that country, and God's kingdom lives and works on laws of God. Do you see? And because angels understand God's laws and they do God's commands, and from God's commands, the heavenly kingdom works and lives. But earthly kingdoms don't do God's commands. And that because we can say life is not fair here on earth. Yeah, life is not fair.
I got a question.
Mhm.
Who the person who wrote that book, the book that you are reading, is that person like religious?
Yeah, he was a religious person. He was a
And
Christian.
and is that person has like an important um uh place in religion? Like is it like a spoken person in Christianity, maybe?
Mm.
I
He
don't
lived
know
in
how.
Sweden. He lived in
Yeah.
Sweden, and after it, he lived in England, and he was a very famous person. Yeah, Mm, well,
I
like it's
mean, what I mean to say is, when we talk about Christianity, there is like the Pope. Like the Pope would be the highest figure of Christianity.
no, he wasn't a pope. He didn't belong to any denomination. And actually, Swedenborg gives us a method how can we interpret holy books like Bible and Quran too, for example. I mean, because Swedenborg didn't write about literal meaning of Bible, but he wrote only about spiritual meaning of the Bible, and we can use this method to interpret and understand a spiritual meaning of Bible
I,
and Quran and other
I
holy
get it.
books.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
get it. I get it. What I'm questioning is what is his title? Like, what is he? Is he just an author, or does he have like a position in Christianity that makes him saying what he said? Like, do you know what I'm trying to ask you? Like, what is his background?
His background. I don't understand your question. Sorry. What do you mean?
No, I would assume that somebody who's like an author who would write down what is heaven and what it does and everything describing heaven. I would assume that a person like that would have a very important position in Christianity. You know what I mean? Like there is the Pope, maybe there is like subdivision of people who are responsible for, I don't know, like Christian things. You know what I mean? Like, or is it just an author, like a random author pretending to know how heaven works? That's what I'm questioning, actually.
I don't know. I'm just reading this book, and I'm learning English from this book, and I try to understand his point of view because maybe I don't know about. Mhm. Yeah.
Is my mic good or I have to fix it?
Oh yeah, your mic is.
Mhm.
There is a noise every time you say a word.
Maybe can we continue the reading of this book? Maybe, and we can understand his point of view better. Maybe, and you will get answers on your questions from this
Uh,
book. Maybe
I
it's
don't
better
think
to explain it.
I don't think I'm gonna have this question in the book, especially reading.
No, I know what you
I don't
mean.
think the
I can
book is
answer
about
that question.
explaining what.
I can answer that question you had.
Oh, please.
Um, so like in Christianity, right? Um, they don't idolize people. Like they don't put specific people in power and possession or like put him in like a pedestal, you know? Like if he's a pastor, he's gonna
Yeah.
be a pastor and then no one would, recite his name or remember him, stuff like that. It's not focused on, you know, uh, like he is an author. He
Mhm.
shared his knowledge, so we shouldn't like look up to him for more knowledge. We should look up to Christ instead. So that's
Okay.
the
Can I
easy answer.
can I say something? Okay.
Hmm.
So when you say we should not look up for him, but see, look up for,
See
I
him
don't
as
know
like
the
another
ways.
brother in Christ.
So I should see him as another brother. That's what you said.
Yeah, you should see him as just another brother in Christ.
Okay, and then my question is,
Hmm.
um, my question is how. Okay, my question is, what legitimacy does that person has to explain to me what is heaven and what it's not
Well, he
as a
has
brother?
his, yeah, of course, he has his, what do you call it? Um, his uh, so in the book, it will tell you, like, how knowledgeable he is, right? His area of study, like if he's a theologist, if he graduated in theology, uh, all the research he has done. Like, I'm sure you can read about him, right?
Mhm,
So that's more of the thing you can find out. Like if you are skeptic about like the things he's teaching, you can look up his name and
mhm.
get to know more about him, like from a theological standpoint. And so, the reason he even published this book, no one is gonna buy the book if they don't trust his knowledge. You know. So in a way, you can look up his background and then make your own judgment. But there isn't such thing as, oh, this guy made this book, we should make him famous and we should like always look up to him, stuff like that. It's
I
not part of
mean,
Christianity.
this book is on the internet, so you can actually buy it.
Yeah, you can buy it. Yeah.
So there is something wrong already. Like you shouldn't
What's
be buying this. Like you shouldn't be putting any money on it. You know what I mean? You see what I'm getting there? Like
Yeah, I
if
know
it
what you're
is,
getting.
yeah, if it is uh like speaking about something that is way more greater than us, like heavenly talking, how could it be
Mhm.
like how could we buy it? You know what I mean?
Okay, the
Like,
thing is, right, how are you going to support the author? Like, of course, he could decide to,
I mean,
like
it's
make it
like
free,
yeah, yeah.
but
Sorry.
like at the end of the day, he needs to like pr- have something to pay rent or provide for his, you know, like stuff
Yeah,
like
I
this
know, I
takes a
know.
long
I
time to
mean,
create.
as any artist who needs to who want a job
Right.
or
He needs
whatever,
an
like
income.
whether you're doing cinema, singing, or writing or anything. Yeah, but now the book is not about fiction, right? It's not. It's fiction. It's not. It's not the Lex. It's not the next. I don't know.
Here's the thing, right? This book is not a requirement. Like Christians don't have to read this book. It's more of like a uh, to increase your knowledge. Like when I say increase your knowledge, is to make clear. Like he's trying to break down some of the scriptures, right, one by one, and
Mhm.
like sort of makes you like make it easier to digest, right, and like conceptualize some of
Okay,
the scriptures.
so everything that is written in it comes. It's not coming from his mind. It's actually something that it has taken out of the Bible. Is that
From
what
the
it
looks
is?
of it, yeah, he's basically explaining the verses, and then he's also using the Bible and to explain. He's using the Bible to explain each verse that becomes
Okay, so
controversial. That
now
might
it's a
seem
bit
like
clear.
Are
questionable.
you ready?
It's a bit clearer. So actually, he's giving us his vision of what he's getting from reading the Bible. That's what it is.
Um, I wouldn't say his interpretation,
Hi.
right? It's
Right.
more of like he doesn't want, because yeah, anybody can like create their own interpretation of like a specific verse, right?
Mhm.
But in the Bible itself, it tells you that to interpret, the Bible is not open to interpretation. No one can just interpret the Bible. You have to use the Bible to interpret the Bible, right? If you read a verse in, the Old Testament, you interpret it using the Bible. So you have to find a relatable verse, either in the Old Testament or in the New Testament, to um, translate that if it's hard to for you to understand it. So you can't just say, oh, this verse simply means this, because like it doesn't work like that. And
So
in this book
everything
he's using other verses to sort of like connect the dots.
okay, so everything that is written in this book does not coming from his mind, so to speak. He is. Well, I'm just trying to understand. So
Hmm.
what is explaining in this book is just what people should understand from reading the Bible, but in a more
Yeah,
accessible way for everybody,
right. Yeah, in a more like, how do I explain it?
a more easy way to understand.
Easier way to understand some of the hard concepts, right? Because when like people who don't really see the Bible as like in a spiritual eye, right? Like he also mentions that like everything should be taken into, because there's a lot of parables, right? The Bible is not straightforward with some of the things it teaches, right? And so you have to take into account like parables are meant to be, revealed, and to reveal it, um, there's many different ways, right? But um, the right way to reveal them is using the Bible itself. And this guy he put a lot of research into it, right? And he made it convenient for people to understand and digest the meaning.
Mm.
behind like verses. Like as you read, you keep reading verses, right? And then there's also references, right? It tells you, oh, go here, go in here, go in here. It will give you some more reference, like as you're reading. If you didn't notice,
You mean in the Bible?
yeah, in the Bible, like as you're reading this, sometimes he would put scriptures, right? References. So like after he gives his opinion, he's backing up his opinion by scripture and not just like his own interpretation. So even if he gave an interpretation, his interpretation has to be backed by a scripture that could
Okay.
um, exactly connect with his interpretation.
Okay.
Like Bible interprets itself, yeah?
Yeah, the Bible interprets this exactly, yeah. And in here, you see a lot of reference um, um, books or reference verses you can look up as you're reading. So that's one of
Alright.
the ways you can check back and see if he's
Alright.
actually telling the truth, because he can't just simply say this means this and then stop there. He has to actually provide backup verses that can support his opinion or his interpretation.
Okay.
Okay. Can we continue? Who wants to read this this chapter about? It's about Genesis 6, and we can understand his point of view. What because this book is called The Secrets of Heaven, and it's about secret knowledge, like hidden knowledge. We can get this knowledge from Genesis 6 to understand what it is about in spiritual sense, because Bible is a spiritual book, and we should understand the Bible in spiritual sense. And we can read about opinion of Emmanuel Swedenborg, and we can say our opinion, what we agree with his opinion, on what we are not agree. For example, yeah, we can share our opinions. Who can read?
I read
Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Genesis 6. And so it was that humankind began to multiply on the face of the ground, and daughters were born to them. And the sons of God saw the daughters of humankind, that they were good, and they took wives for themselves from among all whom they chose. And Jehovah said, My spirit will not denounce humankind forever, because they are flesh, and their days will be 120 years. Sorry, how should I? Nephilim?
Nephilim.
Okay. The Nephilim were in the land in those days, and for a very long time after the sons of God went in to the daughters of humankind, who bore children to them. These were mighty men, who for ages had been men with a name. And Jehovah saw that the evil of the people in the land multiplied, and what the thoughts of their heart fabricated was nothing but evil every day. And Jehovah was sorry that he had made humankind on the earth, and he grieved to himself at heart. And Jehovah said, I will obliterate the human whom I created from the face of the ground, from human to beast, to creeping animal, to the bird in the heavens, because I regret that I made these things. But Noah found favor in Jehovah's eyes.
Go on.
Summary. This is talking about the condition of the pre flood people. It says that where the church existed. Appetites, which are the daughters, started to control people. It also says that people forge ties between the
Ties. What is ties? Forge ties.
ties is
Mm.
bond.
Bones.
ties,
Bones. Like relation. Yeah. Like bones.
bonds,
Hmm. Like ties in community. Between the.
Teachings of faith and their cravings, hardening themselves in evil and falsity. This is the fact that the sons of God took wives for themselves from among the daughters of humankind, because doing so deprive people of any remnant of goodness or truth. A new way is predicted of forming people so they could the acquire those remnants. The 120 years are the remnants. The Nephilim are those who merge the teachings of faith with their desires in this way, under the influence of self-love, dream up appalling delusions about their own importance compared to that of the other people. The result was that no will for what was good or true, and no perception of goodness or truth remained. The Lord's mercy is described as regret and heartfelt grief. People became such that their desires and delusions could only an- annihilate, annihilate,
Annihilate.
annihilate,
Mm.
an-
It's like
annihilate,
destroy.
annihilate,
Annulled. Annulled. Mhm.
annihilate them. So, in order for the human race to be safe, a new church came into being, and this is Noah. Uh,
Mhm. Go on if you can. Mhm.
inner meaning. Before, um, before going any further, let me mention the situation of the church that came before the flood. Its situation was much like that of later churches, such as the Jewish church before the Lord's coming and the Christian church afterward. All of them perverted and adulterated true religious knowledge. In specific regard to the people of the church before the flood, they conceive appalling delusions are as time passed. The goodness and truth that belong to faith, they merge so thoroughly with their foul desires that almost no trace of either was left to them. When they reached this point, they virtually suffocated themselves. A person lacking any remnant of goodness or truth, after all, cannot survive. Such a remnant, as noted earlier, is what lifts human life above animal life. A remnant, or rather the Lord working by means of a remnant, is what allows a person to seem human, to learn what is good and true, to reflect on particular instances of it, and so think and reason. This remnant alone has spiritual and heavenly life in it. To explain what a remnant is, it is not just the good and true things that we learn out of the Lord's Word from the time we are small and that becomes stamped on our memory. It is also all the states that rise out of those things, such as a state of innocence from babyhood, a state of love for our parents, siblings, teachers, and friends, a state of charity toward our neighbor, and compassion toward the poverty stricken and needy. In short, it is an all state of goodness.
I forgot what is siblings.
Siblings is like brothers, sisters.
Yeah. Like one word of brothers and sisters, like
Siblings.
in one word.
Yes.
Because brother and sister, like two words, but we can say with one word. Siblings. Okay, states of goodness, truth.
Goodness or truth. These states, along with the good and true things imprinted on our memory, are called a remnant. The Lord preserves them in us, hiding them away in our inner being without our slightest awareness, and carefully separating them from the things that are our own. In other words, from evil and falsity. The Lord preserves all these states in us in such a way that not even the least significant of them is lost. This I learned from the fact that every one of our states, from infancy to extreme old age, not only remains in the other life, but even returns. When we relive, is it relive? Relive.
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 Relive. Relive. It's like revive.
When we relive them, they are identical to the experience we first lived through in the world. This happens not only with the good and true things. Etch.
Etched. What is it? Etched. Ah,
Etched.
I knew this word. It's like engraved.
Okay.
Engraved.
Engraved. Things etched.
On our
Like stamp.
memory, but
Stamp.
uh,
Stamped. I mean, etched like maybe stamped on our memory. Yeah, maybe we
yeah.
can say.
Things etch on our memory, but also with any state of innocence or charity we have experienced. In addition, each and every one of our states of evil and falsity or malice and delusion remains and returns as well. In all, in its minutest, minutest,
Minutest.
minutest.
Yeah, I heard this word like sounds minute like but minute. We can pronounce it like minute too. And in American,
Minutest.
like minutest maybe.
Minutest.
It's like little minutest. In the sense, it's
Minute.
like little, yeah, momentary. But it's not about time. It's about, I think it's like little in minutest detail. Yeah, like in all its smallest detail, like this maybe.
hmm and when the latter states come back to us, the Lord tempers them by means of the former. All of which, all of which shows that if we had no remnant, we could not help being them for eternity. The the pre-flood people were such that in the end they had almost no remnant. The cause was their mental character, which inclined them to adopt dreadful, odious persuasions about absolute everything that happened or that sprang into their thoughts. They did not want to retreat a single step from those delusions, or, above all, from self love, considering themselves godlike and their thoughts divine. A bent for self deception on this scale has never emerged.
Bent. Bent.
Bent.
Bent is like tendency, maybe, yeah. Inclination. Incline.
Incline.
Inclined. Incline. Emerged.
Among any race of people, before or since, such a nature kills by suffocating, and so those people can never be in the vicinity of other spirits in the next life. When present, they rob other spirits of any ability to think by the pressure of their own immovably determined opinions, not to mention other effects they produce, which are by Lord's divine mercy to be described below.
Immovably. Immovably. Yeah.
Immovably.
Immovably. It's about moving. Like not moving. Like movably. Movably and immovably, like
Immovably.
antonym. Immovably. And what is suffocating? Kill vicinity. What is vicinity?
Within
Vicinity.
Ah, neighborhood area like this. Vicinity.
Should this kind of self deception take over, it acts like a glue, and the good feelings and true thoughts that should be our remnant adhere to it. Then remnants can no longer be stored away, and what has already been stored away becomes unavailable. As a result, when people arrive at the height of this kind of delusion, they annihil well, it's a little hard.
Annihilated. Annihilated.
Annihilated.
It's about now.
Annihilated.
Annihilated. Do you see?
Annihilated.
Transcription. Annihilated. Annihilated. It's like
Annihilated.
annul. It's about annul.
Annul.
Annul. Terminate.
Annihilate. Themselves and thrown in an wait. What's that?
Inundation. What is it?
Inundation.
It's flood. Like influx, flooding. Inundation, it's about flood.
Inundation.
It's about water. Big water. Like this.
Not unlike the flood. Their extinction is compared to a flood for this reason, and in keeping with the custom of the earliest people, is also depicted as a flood.
Thank you very much. Who wants to read next? Maybe. It's Genesis 6:1, and it's in Armenian.
Can I read?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'm not good at reading, but I'll try. Genesis 6:1. And so it was that humankind began to multiply on the face of the ground, and daughters were born to them, humankind symbolizes the human race of that time, the face of the ground symbolizes that whole area where the church existed. The daughters symbolize that resides in the will of such a person and so symbolize appetites.
Maybe
That's it.
appetites.
Appetites. I'm so bad at it.
Appetites.
Mhm.
Appetites.
Appetites.
Appetites. Mhm.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop it right there.
Mm. Are you tired, Damien? Okay, who's next? Okay, I will read. The symbolism of humankind as the human race of the time and evil and corrupt race is established by subsequent verses. My spirit will not denounce humankind forever because they are flesh. The evil of the people in the land multiplied, and everything that the thoughts of their heart fabricated was nothing but evil. I will obliterate, destroy, obliterate. I will obliterate the human whom I created. And from the next chapter, all flesh creeping on the earth passed away, and every human in whose nostrils was the breath of living spirit. In regard to humanity, it has already been said that the Lord alone is human, and that from him every heavenly person or heavenly church acquires the name of human. Everyone who is not heavenly acquires the name of human from him too, as do people of all religions or whatever. It is what distinguishes us from animals. Still, we are not human, are not different. The animals, except through having a remnant, which is the Lord's. The remnant too enables us to be called human, and since the remnant enables this, and the remnant is the Lord's, again it is from the Lord that we acquire the name of human, no matter how bad we are. We would not be human but the lowest of the animals if we had no remnant. The symbolism of the face of the ground as that face of the ground as that whole area where the church existed can be seen from the symbolism of the ground, since the word carefully distinguishes ground from the earth or the land. It's interesting, yeah? What's the difference between ground, the earth, or the land? And we see the word carefully distinguishes ground from the earth or the land. Okay. Wherever it appears, ground symbolizes the church or some aspect of the church. This is the origin of the human's name Adam, which means ground. Often when the earth or the land is mentioned in the word, it means the absence of the church or of anything having to do with the church. The first chapter is an example. In it, only the earth or land is mentioned. Since the church, the regenerate person, did not yet exist. The ground is first mentioned in the second chapter because by then the church did exist. Something similar occurs here and in the next chapter. Actually, I understand it like he means that it's about building community, I understand, because church is like a community. All substance would be destroyed from the face of the ground. This means in the territory where the church was, in the same chapter, to keep the seed alive on the face of the earth. This is about church yet to be created. The same holds true everywhere in the world as in Isaiah. Jehovah will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and will put them on their ground. And the peoples will take them and lead them to their place, and the house of Israel will inherit them upon the ground of Jehovah. This is about a church that has been formed. But a place where there was no church is called the earth. Mhm. In the same author, and the ground of Judah will make Egypt quake. On the day there will be 5 cities in the land of Egypt speaking the tongue of Canaan. The ground is where the church is, and the land is where the church is not. In the same author, the earth will wander like a drunkard. Jehovah will punish the army of the heights on high, and the monarchs of the ground down on the ground. The meaning is similar in Jeremiah because of the chastened ground. Chastened.
Chastened.
Ah, it's chastened. It's like punish. Chastened ground. Because of the chastened ground, since there was no rain on the land, the farmers were put to shame. They covered their head, for even the doe in the field gave birth. The land means the area surrounding the ground, and the ground means the area surrounding the field. In the same author, he brought the seed of the house of Israel out from the northland and from all the lands to which I drove them, and they will live on their ground. The lands and lands are where there are no churches. The ground is where the church or true worship is. In the same author, I will make the survivors of Jerusalem, those left in this land, and those living in the land of Egypt. I will make them a disturbance, an evil to all the kingdoms of the earth, and I will send against them sword, famine, and contagion. What is it? Contagion.
Contagion.
Contagion. Contagion. It's like infection, like COVID-19. Contagion. To the point to devouring them off the ground that I gave to them and their ancestors. The ground stands for theology and for the worship it gives rise to. The same holds true for Jeremiah. I will gather you from the lands to which you have been scattered, and you will acknowledge the time, Jehovah, when I have returned you onto Israel's ground, onto the land in which I lifted my hand to give it to your ancestors. The ground stands for inner worship. It is called the land when there is no inner worship. In Malachi, I will haranch. Is it haranch?
Harangue.
Haran, like speech. Like speech. Haran.
Harangue.
I will haran against the devouring pest for you. Pest. What is pest?
Pest.
Parasite. Harmful organism. Pest. For you, and it will not spoil the fruit of the ground for you. and the grapevine in the field will not be bereft for you. It's about grapevine.
Bereft.
Bereft. It's like to be taken away. To take away. Bereft for you. And all nations will call you fortunate, because you will be a land of pleasure. Fortunate.
Fortunate.
Fortunate. Fortunate. It's like happy, lucky. Fortunate. And all nations will call you fortunate, because you will be a land of pleasure. The land stands for the whole surrounding area, and so, quite obviously, for a person who is called a land, the ground surrounded by that land stands for the church or theology in Moses. Sing, you nations, his people. Sing, you nations, his people. He will expiate. Expiate.
Expiate.
Expiate.
Expiate.
Expiate. Redeem. It's like redeem. Expiate. The guilt incurred by his ground, his people. Incurred.
Incurred.
Incurred. It's like suffered. The guilt incurred by his ground, his people. Clearly, this stands for the church among non-Jewish nations, which is called the ground. In Isaiah, before the child knew to spurn evil and choose good, the ground that you despise, in the presence of its two monarchs, will be deserted. This speaks of the Lord's coming, saying that the ground prepared for the church, the true doctrine concerning faith would be deserted. It is clear that the words ground and field are used in connection with planting, as in Isaiah. He will give rain for the seed with which you would sow the ground. Oxen and young donkeys work in the ground, and in Joel, the field was devastated and the ground mourned because the grain was devastated. From this it can now be seen that the human called Adam in Hebrew from the word for ground symbolizes the church. Yeah, the ground mourned in this sense. The whole region in compassion.
Encompassing. Encompassing.
Encompassing. It's like containing, covering, including, encompassing. The whole region encompassing those who have learned what is taught about true faith is called the church's territory. The land of Canaan was one such place during the time the Jewish church was there. Europe, where the Christian church now exists, is another. The lands and regions outside this are not the church's territory, meaning they are not the face of the ground. Just where that territory was before the flood can be seen from the lands circled by the rivers that came from the Garden of Eden, rivers that the word frequently describes as marking the boundaries of the land of Canaan. Its location can also be determined from what follows, such as the fact that the Nephilim were in the land, and the land they were in was Canaan, as established by the presence of the children of Enoch, who were some of the Nephilim. The symbolism of Joshua says what resides in the will of such a person, and so as cravings is clear from statements made about sons and daughters and evidence offered at verse 4 of the last chapter. Sons were there shown to symbolize truth and daughters goodness. Daughters or goodness belong to the will, but our character determines what our intellect and will are like, and so what our sons and daughters are like. The current chapter is describing corrupted people who have no will but raw desire instead. A raw desire.
Raw.
Raw. It's like rough.
Rough.
Rough, maybe. Raw desire instead. Which they consider to be will and which they also call will. And any feature attributed to a thing has its quality from the thing. And the people said to have these daughters were corrupt as already shown. Daughters symbolize what is in the will, and when there is no will for good, they symbolize appetites. Sons symbolize what is in the intellect, and when there is no comprehension of truth, they symbolize delusions. The reason for this lies in the nature of the sexes. The female sex is such by character and formation that the will of desire rules over the intellect. Every fiber in the female body is attuned to this, and it is the feminine nature attuned to this. It's like
Attuned.
attuned. Attuned. It's like customized. The male sex, on the other hand, is formed in such a way that intellect or reason reigns supreme. Every fiber in the male body is attuned. Attuned. Attuned.
Attuned.
Attuned to this, and it is the masculine nature. Masculine. Masculine nature. Marriage between the sexes results from these circumstances as does a union between will and intellect in every individual. Today no will for good exists by desire instead, and yet a modicum of intellect or rationality is possible. Modicum.
Modicum.
Modicum. It's like drop. Little bit. Modicum of intellect or rationality is possible. This is why so many laws about men's privilege and wives' submission were laid down in the Jewish church. Who wants to read next? Genesis 6:2.
I read.
Go ahead.
Genesis 6:2. And the sons of God saw the daughters of human that they were good, and they took wives for themselves. From among all whom they choose. The sons of God symbolize the teaching.
It's chose, yeah? Not choose.
Oh, sorry.
Chose.
Ah, no.
Chose.
Yeah, it's chose, but chose and choose. This word is choose and chose.
The sons of God symbolize the teachings of faith. The daughters here, as before, symbolize cravings. The sons of God saw the daughters of humankind, that they were good. They took wives for themselves from among all whom they chose. Means that they forge ties between the teachings of faith and their own appetites. Appetites of any kind, whatever. The symbolism of sons of God as the teachings of faith is established by the symbolism of sons, dealt with just above and in verse 4 of the last chapter, where sons symbolize the church truth. The church has truth in the form of doctrinal teachings, because the people described in the present chapter received them by word of mouth from the earliest people. These teachings were true in the abstract. It is for this reason that they are called the sons of God, and also because of their relation to desires called the daughters of humankind. This verse is describing those people's character, showing that they immersed the church truth, which is holy, in their cravings, and in this way defiled it. In doing so, they reinforce their own firmly held assumptions.
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 Assumptions like supposition. Hypothesis. Hypothesis. Assumption. Maybe hypothesis, maybe hypothesis. Let's see.
Hypothesis.
Hypothesis. Hypothesis. Mhm.
Hypothesis.
It's assumption. Hypothesis.
The way these matters stand is something we can all evaluate by looking at ourselves and the people around us. When we convince ourselves of some idea, we prove its truth to ourselves by the use of every seemingly valid argument, even by arguments that come from the Lord's Word. As long as we cling to our adopted principles and persuasions, we force everything into agreement and harmony with them. The more we the more we
Doubt on
doubt,
ourselves. What is doubt?
doubt, oh,
Dote.
Doubt. Doubt. It's like a door. Rejoice.
Adore.
It's like to love ourselves. Like the more we doubt on ourselves. Yeah. Like rejoice on ourselves. Rejoice.
on ourselves, the more uh, ri- rigidly we stick by
Rigidly.
those.
What is it? What is rigidly?
Rigidly.
Rigidly, like strictly.
Strictly.
Strictly. Rigidly.
Rigidly we stick by those ideas. Such a description fits the race of people under discussion here. More will be said about them below. By the Lord's divine mercy, in a further description of their hideous delusions. Surprising to say, these delusions are such that those people are never allowed to influence others with their rationality, rationalization,
Rationalizations.
rationalization, yeah, rationalization. If they did, they would kill all rational power in the spirit around them. They are allowed to influence others only with their desires. Now it is clear what is meant by the sons of God. So the daughters of humankind, that they were good, and they took wives for themselves from among all whom they chose. Uh, the meaning is that they forge ties between the teachings of faith and their cravings of any kind whatever. When we are such that we, smother
Mother.
or smother?
Smother.
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 Yeah, smother. hmm You said correctly. Smother. It's like strain.
Struggle. Is it? No.
Yeah,
Strang-
like
Strangle.
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 Strangle, like suffocate. Crush, like this. Smother. Mhm.
We smother religious truth with our insane longings. We profane the truth and deprive ourselves of any remaining traces of goodness or truth. Although these traces stay with us, we cannot bring them to consciousness, since the moment we do so, we desecrate them once again with thoughts that are already defiled. Profanation, profanation of the word creates a kind of callous that dumps up
Callous.
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 Callous. It's like callous. Let's see. Picture. Callous. Because do you see callous? Like
Oh, like callous.
it's like if you go a lot, like walking a lot, you can have callus on your legs. It maybe because of bad shoes, like this callus. Callus that dams.
Dams.
Dams. Like them. Dams. Dams. Yes, them.
Stem.
Like this. Dams.
Okay. Uh,
Of callus,
okay.
the dams up.
Callous dumps up all remaining goodness and truth and absorbs it. Be careful, then, not to desecrate the Lord's word, which, although it is not seen as containing truth by anyone caught up in false assumptions, thus contain eternal living truth.
Thank you. I think this reading is over today, and I have to go and say goodbye and see
All
you
right.
later.
Bye. Take care.
Mhm.
Still want to stay?